Hey, thank you again. This is Michael Tobin on the Michael Tobin Show. This is Will God Save California, Part 2. Free cars, Commies, Legalized, and Sanctuary Cities in California. This is going to be another quick one, and again, it is Part 2, so feel free to go back to the Part 1 on this section of the Michael Tobin Show, local mode. I want to go ahead and whiz right through this one again. I got to make it quick in my time allotted. Several things, and this is from Alan B. West, retired U.S. Army Colonel, former Florida Congressman. He writes in a email from yesterday, last week when I was at the NRA annual meeting and convention, I ran into folks from California and they just shook their heads. I cannot fathom why any freedom-loving American would live in California. But the real sad part of this is these chuckleheads think they're doing something right. And what's worse, you have Californians departing the state and heading to other states like Texas and like locusts, seeking to destroy the status quo and make it like where they just left. This is exactly what happened to Colorado, Nevada, Arizona, and Montana. To an extent, is experiencing the same, and now Washington State. It makes one believe the number one export crop of California is stupidity of a liberal progressive type. The worst. Now imagine, we once had true patriots who had so riled up about taxation that they threw a bunch of expensive tea into a harbor. I have to wonder what it will take to get folks in California to say enough, or is it that there aren't enough classical liberals, liberty-loving patriots remaining in the state of California to make a difference? If the latter is truer than the former, what shall become of California? What happens when the day comes for California to ask for a federal government bailout? Several of its cities have danced with bankruptcy declarations. Yes, California has given us the highly intellectual and astute representatives such as Pelosi, Waters, Lee, Boxer, Waxman, Feinstein, and now Harris. Oh boy, a winning combination. We must stop allowing the left to pick and choose what they believe is a right or a law. If I were President Trump, this judge, an Obama appointee who ruled that the president cannot freeze or cut off federal funding to states and municipalities embracing sanctuary cities status for illegals, would have been disregarded. The president is the chief executive officer of the federal government and of course is well within his constitutional enumerated powers to cut off funding to an entity dismissing federal law. And mind you folks that this letter from Alan B. West was before, or it didn't even include what else I am going to bring up here. So please listen, pay attention, and use this broadcast as a reference. My response to Mr. Alan West is there are too many libs here and not enough conservatives who have the nads to stick up for our state. From my viewpoint, I see many of those who are staying as being misconceived in that they think membership in groups or organizations as all they need to do. Talk is cheap. And those leaving are those who were able to amass the savings or income to leave and start fresh somewhere else. If people who say they are so high and mighty would stay and change what they criticize, we would be that much more better off. Now they are merely a they and not an us. It's too bad because we will remember who bailed on us and who stayed when the few defeat the many. And I'm holding on to that for that moment, folks. I am staying until the very bitter end. Kind of like the Alamo. They stayed to the bitter end. But by the way, I heard that Wisconsin used to be a blue state, but they turned things around. It's not beyond happening like that here in California. In fact, Wisconsin broke the tie with California in how many straight elections we were blue voters by voting Trump this past election. And there are quite a few other states who voted way more times blue than California. Come on, man, I said to Mr. West. You're a colonel. Let's get some strategy. And how about the Alamo? People came from all across the nation to help Texas, but we have quitters leaving, and the rest of the nation just calls us names and cracks jokes about us while we suffer. Who's the chucklehead? So now, who can forget several months ago the Silicon Valley executive that pretty much instantly started a conservative boycott? This made the news all over the world. A lady named Melinda Byerly, she's an executive of Silicon Valley Company. She tweeted. She took the picture of the tweet. She took a picture of what she wrote and she put it on her Twitter because it was way more than 140 characters. But she said, one thing middle America could do is to realize that no educated person wants to live in a shithole with stupid people, especially violent, racist, and or misogynistic ones. When big corporations think about where to put call centers, factors, development centers, etc., they also have to deal with the fact that those towns have nothing going for them. No infrastructure, just a few bars and a terrible school system. So if you want jobs, clean up your act and make your town a place that people like us want to live. You see where this is getting at, folks? I think the liberals here who came from, like this lady did, she came from a blue state, a red state. They come here, they change our state, and then they want to go back home? Really? They want to be welcomed. So she continues. So if you want jobs, clean up your act and make your own town a place that people like us want to live in. Add fiber internet. Make it a point to elect a progressive city council and commit to not being bigots. Here comes the name calling. I guarantee many of us who would like to live a more rural lifestyle or at least a less urban one, but we won't sacrifice tolerance or diversity to do so. We especially don't want to live in states where the majority of residents are still voting for things that are against their own interests just because they don't want brown people to thrive. Oh, here comes the all kinds of different cards, race card, and if you don't vote like us, you're a bigot, you're a name. The Midwestern towns that fix this first will attract investment in droves. So, didn't I just mention Wisconsin? Anyways, I'm not going to go ahead and just... the next day, she tweeted, I didn't feel like tweet storming, so here's a screenshot. That's what she was explaining her screenshot. This is her apology. I spoke about Middle America, my birthplace, inartfully and disrespectfully. I'm sorry for that. Sure. So who could forget that if you actually have read that, folks? So, continuing, there's more. I want to talk about something that was in the news yesterday. Only in California. This is from California State Representative Travis Allen. He says, only in California, San Francisco Bay Area Democrat Rob Bonta introduced his bill to allow communists in state government before facing opposition from Assemblyman Travis Allen. This bill is blatantly offensive to all Californians. Communism stands for everything that the United States stands against. So, this California Senate member, Rob Bonta, it just passed the lower house now, and it's going to go to the upper house in California. He wants to strike out a section of a law that says that any state employee who is a member of the Communist Party can be fired. They want to take that out and make it a non-fireable offense. So my response to California Senate member Travis Allen was, come on, Mr. Assemblyman, level with us. The article states, in part, employees could still be fired for being members of organizations they know advocate for overthrowing the government by force or violence. In light of this statement, don't you think that the removal of the communist section of this law part would free many who are California state employees who may be in process of charges for taking part in events such as UC Berkeley riots and other destructive events called protests? Wouldn't it be possible to connect those responsible for their destruction as being directly related to the communist overthrow of federal areas and state areas of governments? But with the removal of the communist parts of this law, would make any involvement of Antifa or any other groups while a state employee irrelevant? Would you see this new bill as a proactive measure to shield any state employees or elected officials from prosecution when they were merely doing the bidding of those who are elected officials and paid staff of elected officials? You get that, folks? This was late last night, 15 hours ago. And he hasn't commented to me on this one, but an hour after I posted this one, he commented to somebody else saying, thank you for your kind words. Well, I didn't have any kind words to say, but I didn't have any bad words to say. I asked him a question. So, be that as it may, we have a former San Diego politician here in San Diego, Carl DiMaio. He's a radio station host. He was talking about Travis Allen yesterday because somebody asked him, what about Travis Allen with the gas tax? Isn't he trying to do something? And I don't know where this Carl DiMaio gets his opinion from, but he says that Travis Allen is like a carnival barker. He's just in it for the publicity, so I don't know. But and continuing, my first response to this bill that's going to the upper house of California now is, I guess that settles it with the last nail in the coffin. Don't expect anything from this current administration or federal dollars, at least for Trump's 2 terms. I wrote, I see no reason for federal taxes to be used for anything in California, not even disaster relief. Why should the union of states exist with one oddball? You socialists keep getting stranger and stranger. So I got a couple of criticisms from a couple of trolls because I put that out there. And one young man on this news thread where I got some criticism, he says, it's a political affiliation. What's the problem? Well, I had to say this, with a little example to boot. Communism has been turned into the appearance of a political affiliation. It is really a political ideology, the same as socialism and, yes, even Islam. Islam is a political ideology in disguise of a religion. No matter any genuine political ideology, they are all opposition to capitalism, which is not a dirty word. Capitalism is the world's only political ideology that is cohesive to our U.S. Constitution. Anything else is like mixing clay with iron. It looks okay when formed, but it breaks. In the words of Fabio, who is a newly U.S. citizen as of last year and a longtime California resident, he says, coming from Europe, I've already seen this movie before. And I only got 1 minute left, folks, so I got to rush through this. In today's episode of Why the Hell Do I Bother to Work for a Living?, we learned that the city of Sacramento, California, has decided to purchase a fleet of cars that will be made available free of charge to 300 residents already using that city's public housing. Sacramento is giving 300 free cars to public housing residents. Folks, in the last few seconds, I want to read from Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 8, one of my favorite scriptures. If you see the poor oppressed in a district and justice and rights denied, do not be surprised at such things, for one official is eyed by a higher one, and over them both are others higher still. And I've written about it. I'm going to bring it up very soon, but I've written that even wealthy people can be persecuted, and you cannot persecute. The Bible says, and I'll prove it, that you cannot persecute wealthy people simply because they're wealthy, and you cannot persecute poor people simply because they're poor and powerless. So I leave you on that note. So stay tuned for that subject that I just now told you about the wealthy and the poor both being persecuted. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.